Hello, and welcome to the SNHU Career Webinar, Success Factors at Work, How to Successfully Navigate Your Career and Climb to the Top. My name is Cassandra Broughton, and I am a Career Services Coordinator with Southern New Hampshire University. This webinar is intended to provide you with resources, tips, and best practices to support you in developing and implementing a clear and comprehensive plan to reach your unique career goals. Once again, welcome to our SNHU career presentation on Success Factors at Work, how to successfully navigate your career and climb to the top. Your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It's our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation that present any barriers to accessibility, please notify our Online Accessibility Center, or the OAC, as soon as possible at 866-305 9430. You can also email them at oac@snhu.edu. This video includes closed captioning for the hearing impaired. Simply click the CC logo at the bottom of the video as shown here. This slide highlights the learning objectives that we will discuss in today's webinar. Think broadly about your role and not be limited to your job description. Identify gaps and create solutions to fill those gaps. Learn how to manage and be a valuable resource for your boss. Acknowledge that you don't always have to move up and that a lateral move can make sense too. When we think back to the 20th century, we envision finishing school, joining a company, and working our way up from the bottom to upper management within the same organization over the span of 30 or 40 years. Certainly, the quote by Stephen Covey depicts an admirable concept on how to advance and what to consider as you're laying the groundwork for your advancement. But the concept of a ladder doesn't necessarily apply to all careers. Globalization and technology are creating more virtual and dispersed teams. Each generation is expressing that flexibility and career life fit are a priority. It is becoming clear that workers' needs, expectations, and definitions of success don't match those of the workforce of days gone by. With that being said, there is a time and place for the ladder approach and the lattice approach to career advancement. In mathematics, a lattice allows for movement in all directions. Every point can connect to all other points, almost like a web. Similarly, in organizations, the corporate lattice describes careers that can develop in multiple directions, or work that has an array of options for how it is performed, and participation in solving problems and generating ideas that move from top down to all-inclusive. This approach builds careers that offer multiple paths for learning and growth. Cross-functional assignments, or even cross-country assignments, are becoming more commonplace. Lattice organizations provide custom careers, enabling mobility across a variety of work experiences and engaging employees so they do their best work. Employees also become more versatile, and that helps the company adapt more quickly to change. Whether your company identifies as a lattice organization or not, you can still use the principles to support and advance your efforts. We will continue to expand upon this concept throughout the webinar and how you can best implement it in your own work. Before we continue exploring the different ways in which you can advance within your career into new positions for advancement, it's important that we take a moment to explore how to stay relevant in a new position that you may have obtained. You don't want to just go through the motions. It's important to stop and think about how to make yourself relevant within the first year of your new role, how to optimize your position and your progress to make the transition into promotions easier down the road. Finding a job is a lot of hard work, but the work only gets more challenging once you've landed the position. Of course, you'll be working because of the tasks of your job requires you to do, but you'll need to acclimate to the politics, the environment, the culture, the challenges, the opportunities, the people, and all the other variables surrounding your new job. In addition to showing up on time and doing what's asked of you, what else should you be doing once you land the big job? For starters, we recommend that you learn from multiple sources. Some things to learn are obvious, such as processes, policies, duties, and other simple and expected aspects of the job. However, if you want to adapt quickly to become a high performer, you will need to learn things beyond the basics. It is wise to sit down and get to know the experienced high performers at your new organization to gain perspective. In addition to this, it is helpful to make sure that you are analyzing and assessing everything that you are learning in order to set your priorities. Some aspects of your new job likely require more focus, yet they may be areas with which your experience, knowledge, or strengths are misaligned. This might be an area you focus more attention to when learning so you can improve more quickly where it matters most. This should be a continuous process as change is constant. While you are learning, analyzing the data, and making your own assessments, you may start to formulate a strong idea of what you should be accomplishing in the first few weeks or months, but you should also get a second opinion. Ask your supervisor what is expected of you in the first 3 months, 6 months, and year. The best way to know what is expected of you is to ask and be sure to get clear answers. What specific and measurable goals should be accomplished by what time, and what are the key performance indicators to monitor to know that you are on track? Lastly, it is good to ensure that you are setting goals and creating a plan with all the information and feedback that you are obtaining. Once you gain a solid understanding of your role, your priorities, the expectations placed upon you, how success is defined, and the key performance indicators to monitor, you have what you need to set goals and make a plan. We recommend that you try sticking to at least 3 goals and no more than 5. As you work towards your goals, evaluate your progress and remain cognizant of the variables that impact your objectives. Adapt to any changes in priorities or unexpected changes, which can be typical, especially in certain industries and in challenging economies. To assist you in being successful with these ideas, we recommend that you make sure you communicate often and effectively with your team. Learn how each member of your team prefers to communicate. Some people prefer email or instant messaging, while others prefer speaking in person. If your team often has lunch together, join them when you can, and if they don't, maybe you can organize a team lunch periodically. Relaxed conversations can be an effective way to get to know your team better and further develop working relationships. It's also important that you ensure that you're asking a lot of questions. It's expected that you are going to need clarifications and explanations as you transition. It's actually a good thing too because it shows that you have interest and take action. With that being said, before you ask those questions, think about what you have done so far. Have you tried Googling it? How about looking on over the training manual you received? If you've done that, great. What else have you done? What were those results? You should be asking yourself whether or not you've asked this question before. Once you have the answers, you should be ready to ask your team or supervisor. When you do, be sure to include the information you have gleaned from the areas you've explored. Your coworkers will appreciate that you've already made an effort. Another idea to keep in mind as you settle into your new role is to feel comfortable bringing new ideas and suggestions to the table. You are where you are for a reason, and your team believes that you can contribute to the company's success. Use your fresh perspective to identify process improvements and ask questions about why things are done. This is not saying to challenge everything, but a fresh perspective can see routine activities in a new light. Lastly, this may seem straightforward, but taking notes is always a good idea. When in meetings, take notes. When asking questions, take notes. When doing your work, take notes. When you have an idea, take notes. And don't forget to keep up with your notes. You'll refer to them more often than you might think. Now that we have gone over some helpful tactics to encourage interactions with your colleagues, showcase your ambition, and assist in your onboarding and acclimation, it's important that we review some items to avoid. Depending on the culture and stress associated with your work, it might be tempting to partake in these activities, but the instantaneous release could have a lasting effect on your ability to advance. For starters, it probably comes as no surprise, but complaining is never a good idea. It doesn't matter why you are complaining or whom you are complaining to or about. Complaints often show that you're not willing to put in the work to make a change. If you have a concern, try offering a potential solution as you raise what it is that's bothering you. It's much more constructive to show that you're a problem solver rather than a complainer. It's also never a good idea to make excuses. This is similar to complaining in the sense that it is not productive. While there is probably a procrastinator in all of us, we recommend trying not to put things off at work. Something else you'll want to avoid is running everything by your boss. Of course, we discussed that asking questions is good, and we gave some helpful hints on when and how to make them constructive, but asking too many questions is usually the result of one or two concerns. Either the employee is hoping the boss will take care of the issue or delegate it to someone else, Or the second reason is because the employee doesn't feel like he or she can be dependent and get things done. In either situation, you won't be productive. Being able to take the problems at hand, get creative, and work hard to solve them is important for your boss and colleagues to see. If someone is preoccupied with getting credit for everything that is accomplished at work, it can be seen as off-putting. The person either comes across as conceited, overcompensating for a lack of confidence, or someone who really isn't committed to the work at hand and to being productive. In order to really be productive, you have to be creative and innovative in your role. Simply doing what you're told. Let the work speak for itself. The last issue you want to revolve around is letting your personal betterment and branding slip. This usually happens when someone becomes complacent. Try not to allow your work to become routine. It's important to learn new skills and to always take pride in your work and your brand. This shows independence and motivation. It also shows that you're capable of doing more than just the requirements of your current position. Now that we have a better understanding of how to make the most out of a new position, it's important for us to delve deeper into how to be strategic as we plan for future positions. We know that career paths can take on many forms, that there is no one prescribed path to success and no perfect formula to guarantee that you'll end up where you want to be. However, your dedication, motivation, knowledge, and skill sets all contribute positively to an organization and can assist in achieving your aspirations. In addition to this, it is becoming more and more important for us to address the challenges confronting complex structures and processes in the workplace in order to stay competitive. In order to do this, we will explore the different kinds of career paths that you can take and how each one is beneficial. This is a concept known as career customization, which moves companies away from the one-size-fits-all concept for career progression and towards multiple career paths, allowing you to design and execute your direction through continual collaboration between you and your supervisor. This also addresses the notion that not everyone wants to be a manager or leader. Perhaps you enjoy being an individual contributor, but still want to look for some sort of progression. Or maybe you're someone who loves learning everything that you can about a specific product or service. That's okay too and can be incorporated into your path. Maybe you want to follow a trajectory that will allow you to change the pace of work as your life requires. Work hard, slow down, work virtually, or work part-time. Diverse careers need diverse career paths. A job-centered career path speaks to the semi-skilled worker mindset from the Industrial Revolution, and they are unfortunately at risk in today's job market. These individuals move from job to job, company to company, without serious attention to building strong skill sets in one or more professions or trades. They are the first to be replaced by changing technology, outsourcing, failing global economy, disappearing businesses, reductions in workforce, or automation. Unfortunately, much of our current employment tools are centered around what the job is. We have developed job-oriented search systems through company job postings on different job posting sites, as opposed to skills and areas of expertise. In addition, the majority of organizations still base compensation systems on the job rather than mastery of practices in a profession or trade. It is more intuitive and fruitful if we look instead at a job being simply a way to discover the kind of work that suits your needs, talents, and skills. Keeping a job, then, requires learning and mastery of one or more professional areas that is valued in your organization or industry. Some people remain in the same profession or functional area for their careers, like in engineering or information technology. They may move between companies, business areas, and product lines, but they find their fulfillment in building increased expertise in one functional area. Most organizations refer to them as individual contributors, or in the case of very experienced professionals, subject matter experts, or SMEs. Many careerists follow their passion or love of a profession. They become SMEs within their discipline or subdiscipline. If you find yourself in this type of role, where colleagues continuously turn to you because you know everything that there is to know about something in particular, remember that not everyone shares your same enthusiasm for the information at hand. Be sure to keep your answers simple, don't share content that is not necessary for the person to know, and try to focus your attention on using your knowledge to make something happen. Let people see your skills in action. Employees engaged in passion-centered career paths or profession-centered career paths can move from SMEs to pursue cross-functional paths. In a cross-functional career path, you have the ability to move between two or more functional areas in your careers. In some cases, you can dip into another functional area briefly to broaden your understanding of a related function and then return to your specified area. In other cases, you can actually move from one functional area into another and craft your future career moves from that area to another. If you find yourself attracted to this kind of career path, be sure to note that transparency is important. You must see both the overall system and the different options that other professionals have followed. A multifunctional career path is where millions of workers tend to be. It's more of a generalist role. Career paths tend to span two or more functional areas: marketing, sales, customer service, management, etc. People move from one field to another, either in the same industry or organization or in others, in order to develop breadth, depth, and experience. Some discover the functional area in their field of concentration is no longer of interest to them, and they move into different functional areas to discover a niche of greater interest. Others recognize that there are very few opportunities in a particular profession, but they enjoy working in their organization. They move from profession to profession within the organization. Jumping from one open position to another may lead to becoming a successful generalist, but a generalist will never master any one profession or trade. They will never become a subject matter expert. Many companies and individuals create cross-functional career paths by moving new employees from one functional area to another in order to prepare them for management. The philosophy is that managers need not specialize in a specific functional area to become a strong general manager. More often than not, the best managers are respected for their knowledge and mastery of one or more core professions that are essential to their organization. With that being the case, if you have interest of working your way up into upper management, this might be a good path for you. While it is certainly a popular track that seems geared toward leadership and management, it's important to keep in mind that these employees often have you rotate into several different roles and locations. We believe that choosing a profession or trade is the most important career decision that people make. This is because people who abide by this kind of career path tend to have lasting, impressionable forms of excellence in their profession or trade. These professional-centered employees and specialists define their career success in terms of growth, learning, and development. Early on in their careers, they typically take advantage of internships. They seek mentors and coaches for feedback and fellowship. Their loyalty is to learning and increasing the depth and breadth of their mastery. They raise the bar, and they are innovators and the problem solvers in the workforce. Later on in a person's career, many seasoned professionals want to stay in their current company and contribute their expertise to help solve problems and address continuing concerns. They want to follow a purpose-centered career path to innovate and resolve critical issues facing their organization and industry. This is when a person wants projects that will help to harness a sense of purpose and that aligns with individual goals and organizational objectives. While it's good to know the different kind of tracks you can take over the course of your career, we'd also like to spend a little time to acknowledge that it's also extremely helpful to recognize the signs of when your current position is no longer beneficial to your career growth. At some point or another, many of us have felt as though we're hanging on by a thread, that we're on such unsteady ground that we're bound to fail. It's important that we learn to recognize these indicators in our work. Identifying the issues is the first step toward implementing change. 5 common indicators that your current situation is no longer beneficial are: you're chronically fatigued, you feel worn out or burnt out. Your body is telling you, long before your mind acknowledges, that there's a need. The skills and job responsibilities are not a good fit for you. Perhaps they're not challenging enough anymore, or they don't align with where you hope to eventually line up. Either way, you feel as though something is misaligned or even jarring to your contentment. It's the wrong fit, whether it be the position, the corporate culture, or the actual physical location, something doesn't sit well with you. You have an irrepressible feeling that your talents and abilities are not being used. Again, do you have such a strong command of your work that you are bored? Have you ever asked your supervisor to take on additional responsibilities to stimulate your interest and growth with no success? The salary no longer makes up for your boredom and discontent on the job. While you might be maintaining a certain level of financial security, your lack of commitment could be tainting the way you interact with colleagues and the overall satisfaction you feel in continuing to work. Once you've identified that there is a problem, it's time to start doing something about it. Next, we will explore some of the necessary tools to ensure successful career advancement across all career paths. We will delve into how to recognize and overcome any fears or apprehensions you have in the workplace, how you can assess yourself and become more self-aware, how to avoid pitfalls and delays in achieving your goals, how to better anticipate and deal with change, how to capitalize on different networking tactics, what the benefits of a professional mentor are and how to find one, as well as how to strategically incorporate professional development into your plans for the future. Often, when we are fearful at work, we are imagining the worst case scenario. Unless we work in highly dangerous fields where the loss of life or physical injury is a possibility, the worst that can happen is that we lose our job. When you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe contemplating receiving a bad review from your manager, try to think of your support system outside of the job. Becoming more aware of these relationships and how they are probably the most important aspect in your life, your parents, your significant other, and your children can help you relax. Don't sweat the small stuff and put things in perspective. Another helpful tactic to overcome your fears and to not allow them to take up too much time and space in your day is to try scheduling out a specific amount of time to deal with the issue. By putting aside fears to a designated point in time, it should allow you to carry on with daily activities that require full thought and concentration. For instance, you are going to be meeting with a particularly difficult client, you might decide to spend the last 30 minutes of the day thinking of how you would deal with the client before your meeting the next day. This would allow you to focus on important decisions and tasks that you have to complete before becoming distracted by the unpleasant problem that you would be facing. Remember, too, that fear is a challenge that has growth potential. If you look at it from the concept that everything you want is on the other side of your fear, it gives you more incentive to overcome what's bothering you. At best, your fear is a sign that something better awaits. At worst, it holds a valuable lesson with which you can learn from moving forward. Depending on the type of work you do and the kinds of opportunities that might present themselves to you, you may have to find a way to troubleshoot your fears in crisis management situations. To do this, it is helpful to try compartmentalizing your fears and solely focusing on the task at hand. It's also helpful to believe in the benefit of teamwork and delegating tasks. In moments like this, it's good to recognize what we are and are not in control of. We have the ability to learn and teach ourselves and to become better versions of ourselves through these situations. When hiring key employees, hiring managers need to think beyond who they are taking on by also considering where these people will best fit into the organization. While several candidates might have the right skills and experience, not all will have the same management style, people skills, and leadership traits. Self-assessment tools assist an individual or an organization in determining the different personality traits dominant within a person, while acknowledging that people have more than one type of feeling, but that some are more prevalent than others. These tools come in the form of tests, which ask the taker a variety of questions. There are no right or wrong answers, only those that show what type of personality trait is more dominant in a person. Using self-assessment tools, an employer can determine how key employees look at problems, solve them, work with others, and react to pressure. This allows the employer to place different personality types together to create the best organizational structure, departments, and divisions. A growing trend in the workplace is the emphasis being placed on an individual's emotional intelligence. This aligns well with our discussion around self-assessments and the importance of showcasing that you are self-aware. The growing interest in incorporating a person's emotional intelligence into their overall evaluation has to do with the growing understanding of how relationships play a critical role in the overall success of both the individual and the organization. There are 5 basic components of emotional intelligence. They are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills, all of which are linked to superior performance and decision-making abilities in employees. Emotional intelligence helps put people at ease, build relationships, create trust and respect, align people, and further an ambitious attitude. This allows people to understand their own emotions better and to take control over them. As you begin to try to set goals for yourself and your career path, it's good for you to be thinking of things that you can do in both the short and long term. This way, you can begin making strides, feel the momentum, and start slowly getting the results you want to see. In both cases, we like to use a technique referred to as SMART goals. It's an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. First, you want to create a specific goal as opposed to a general one. Do this by asking yourself the 6 W questions. Who is involved? What do I want to accomplish? Where is the location? When is the time frame established? Which requirements or constraints must be considered? And why am I undertaking this endeavor? Or what is the purpose or benefit of the goal? Next, you'll want to establish concrete criteria for measuring the progress toward the attainment of each goal. When you measure your progress, you stay on track, reach your target dates, and experience the exhilaration of achievement to continue the effort required. To determine if your goal is measurable, ask questions such as how much, how many, and how will I know when it is accomplished. Once you've done this, you'll want to identify ways you can make your goals come true. You'll develop the attitudes, abilities, skills, and financial capacity to reach them. You will also begin seeing previously overlooked opportunities to bring yourself closer to the achievement of your goals. Goals that may have seemed far away and out of reach will move closer and become more attainable, not because your goals shrink, but because you grow and expand to match them. To be realistic in your goal setting, you'll want to ensure that the goal represents an objective towards which you are both willing and able to work. A goal can be both high and realistic, but be sure that every goal represents substantial progress. A high goal is frequently easier to reach than a low one because a low goal exerts low motivational force. Some of the hardest jobs you have ever accomplished actually seem easy because they were a labor of love. Lastly, a goal should be grounded within a time frame. With no time frame tied to it, there's no sense of urgency. When your goal is tangible, you have a better chance of making it specific and measurable and attainable. While we've spent the last few minutes planning and preparing for what is in our control, we also need to touch upon how best to cope with change and those things outside of our control. A sudden, unexpected event can happen at any time that forces us to change how we work, what we think of our career aspirations and our life. A change in our workplace policies or practices, a change in the relationship we had with our boss or coworkers, or a shock to the overall business from a competitor or other outside forces. While the change might be a little easier after implementing the tactics we discussed to rise above our fears, there are some additional points for consideration. First is that complexity leads to change. Here are some tips on how to adapt to change in the workplace. They are letting go of how good things used to be, accepting what you cannot change, and thinking in terms of yes and not in terms of no. When you are looking to advance on your career journey, that may lead you to look outside of your current organization, so you definitely want to have an ongoing strategy to explore opportunities outside of the office. This starts with networking. Is networking worth your time to engage in it? It may come as no surprise that the job market has changed dramatically over the last several decades. Increasingly, job openings are filled by referrals as a complement to traditional methods of recruitment. Be mindful that it takes time to foster a relevant, vibrant network, and while certainly getting job offers can be a product of these activities, it's more directly geared towards seeking out experts in your field or people who can share their knowledge and know-how, and in return, you can share your expertise with them. Networking is about building relationships, and through these opportunities, you can also develop your emotional intelligence and your self-awareness too. Taking networking a step further, we recommend that you consider the concept of cultivating a meaningful business relationship through gaining a professional mentor. This is someone you can count on to keep you focused and advise you on the next stage of your business growth. Business mentorships can range from the very formal to the very casual, paid to free, new relationship to old friend. Regardless of the format, the benefits of having a business mentor or coach are the same. First is experience. The business mentor you choose should be someone with more business experience than you. Success and failure are both great teachers, but it is always nice to learn from someone else's failures so you don't have to experience that particular one for yourself. You'll also gain a level-headed sounding board. Thinking about a new project you want to take on, some area of professional development you want to pursue, or maybe you're struggling on how to handle a difficult colleague at the office or how to stand out in a room full of overachievers. Whatever the task at hand is, your business mentor gets you, your role, and your aspirations. Furthermore, your mentor wants to help you succeed. Through this relationship, you're also gaining an impartial opinion. This person will receive your stories, your questions, and your excitements and weight them against their own knowledge and experience. They can evaluate your ideas against a different measuring stick than your own and will be asking probing questions to make sure that the situation you are presenting and the biases you may be bringing to the table don't cloud your judgment. Another area you can explore outside of the office are opportunities for professional development. As we try to advance within our career, we may need to make the most of where we currently are. That's okay and in fact encouraging. It's best if you can grow within the role that you have. If you expand your current role, executives take notice. If you are a one-trick pony, it might be good for productivity, but unfortunately you'll get overlooked for promotions as managers won't see the drive or the adaptability to do more. Thus, do more and you will stand out and get promoted. Lastly, you want to seek out opportunities. Think differently from your peers. Identify gaps and fill them in by evaluating business conditions, demands, the competition, by gaining more industry knowledge and acquiring an understanding of technological advances. Approach each situation with a completely different perspective or a fuller picture than those around you, and people will start to take notice. All successful business leaders seek opportunities where others aren't looking, so look further ahead if you want to get ahead. This approach builds careers that offer multiple paths for learning and growth. Cross-functional assignments or even cross-country assignments are becoming more commonplace. Lattice organizations provide custom careers enabling mobility across a variety of work experiences and engaging employees so that they do their best work. Employees also become more versatile, and that helps the company adapt more quickly to change. Whether your company identifies as a Lattice organization or not, you can still use the principles to support and advance your efforts. As you are conquering your fears, assessing yourself, planning ahead for change, networking, finding mentors, and conducting professional development, you are preparing yourself for your next move. So, whether you are on the ladder or a lattice, as you prepare to take that next step in your career, understand that your managers want you to quantify your accomplishments as you tell them why you are the best person for that new job or a special project that will move you forward professionally. So, as you build your experience and expertise, keep a good record of the impacts that you have made professionally. This way, when you are interviewing for that promotion, you'll be able to incorporate hard data into your work, your evaluations, your projects, and presentation. It's good that you know your performance, your areas of expertise, your strengths and accomplishments, so you can easily make reference to them in conversations or interviews. It's also important to try to add value, revenue, and profit that impacts your area of responsibility. For example, can you make something more efficient? Cut spending, increase sales. These are all extremely valuable to an organization. Once you've done the work and you're making things happen where you are, you'll want to ensure that you document these savings. Be sure to speak in financial terms. The higher you advance up the ladder, the more your focus will be on the bottom line. This will showcase your credibility and communicate that you are invested in the company's goals. Through your measurable goals and your highly developed emotional intelligence, you should naturally begin reflecting well on others. What exactly does that mean? Your actions should demonstrate that you are a leader who takes initiative, possessing self-confidence, and inspires coworkers to produce top-notch work. Before we conclude, there are a few additional points that you probably won't ever hear your boss talk about, but that can help you in achieving your next steps. Sometimes you have to work laterally or in a role that is not preferred to ultimately get what you want. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you're stagnant or that you can't progress. By switching roles in this manner, you'll be diversifying your skill sets, making yourself relatable to more people, as well as gaining different points of interest within the organization, which is good for someone who wants to display leadership and take on management roles. You'll also want to be aware that timing is everything. Because of this, pay attention to timing, to the mood, to the business environment before looking to jump into that new role. You'll also want to have a candid conversation with your supervisor to indicate your interest in moving up before your annual performance review. You'll want to do this because if you wait until the end of the year, the succession planning has already taken place. So if you don't want to miss out, try not to wait. When you broach the subject, you'll want to inquire how your manager thinks you can be developed, what you can work on, and to assist you in aligning your own goals with that of the administration. In addition to this, you don't want to be all business all the time. If you give 110% all the time, you will actually miss out on getting ahead. This is because executives look for balance. You really don't want to ignore a good work-life balance. Lastly, you want to train your replacement. What we mean by this is begin grooming someone with potential in a position below you who you think would do well in your role. If you begin grooming them, mentoring them, building them up, and delegating tasks, it shows that you have what it takes to move on and ultimately up in your career path. Our career team is here to help you. If you have any questions regarding today's presentation or need more one-on-one assistance with resumes, cover letters, mock interviews, or the job search itself, feel free to reach out to our dedicated team of career advisors to schedule a one-on-one career consultation. Thank you.